Welcome back, video creeps! Today we're taking a trip back in time to 1974, so that way we can visit the classic Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Stick around so that way you can see who survives and what's left of them. Growing up, the opening to this movie was like my Star Wars crawl.
The film which you are about to see is an account of the tragedy which befell a group of 5 youths. In particular, Sally Hardesty and her invalid brother, Franklin. It is all the more tragic in that they were young. But had they lived very, very long lives, they could not have expected, nor would they have wished to see as much of the mad and macabre as they were to see that day.
Like, I remember watching this as a little kid and feeling like a bad boy, because I knew I was way too young to be watching this film. But there was something about that, me not being allowed to watch it, that just made it so much better. Early onset kinks, what can I say? I'm talking to you, Misty from Pokemon, with your short ass shorts. You could still get it. But we aren't talking about a galaxy far, far away, or the need for me to drain my Pokeballs. No, we're talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And when you hear that flash bulb and that shutter of that old school camera, it's a fucking mood. And you hear that sound a couple of times. And while you're hearing it, you're looking at a montage of just like dead, cut up pieces of body. And then you see an awesome shot of like a decomposed body propped up on top of a cemetery tomb.
When investigation has revealed at least a dozen empty crypts, and it's feared more will turn up as the probe continues.
And I won't lie, when I was younger, that shit scared the shit out of me. I can remember a time in my life where I would look away so that way I didn't have to see it. That's the kind of shit that fucks you up. I think part of the reason that I was so terrified of this film was the fact that I believed somewhere in my mind that this was a straight up documentary, where in truth it's actually just loosely based off of like Ed Gein and his murders.
Do you know what Ed Gein said about women?
Ed Gein, maitre d' a canal bar?
No, serial killer, Wisconsin in the 50s.
And what did Ed say?
He said, when I see a pretty girl walking down the street, I think 2 things. One part of me wants to take her out and talk to her, be real nice and sweet and treat her right.
And what'd the other part of him think?
What her head would look like on a stick.
But the movie lightens up after seeing all these dead body parts and a decomposing body and this fucked up crawl. They decide to take it easy on you, and they show you a straight shot of a dead armadillo on the side of the road. And as a van passes, we go into the van and we meet our unfortunate group of teenagers. The van pulls over and then one of the members of the van gets out who is in a wheelchair, so that way he can piss into a tin.
Details were sketchy, and as yet none of the governments involved has acknowledged the reports. Police in Dallas arrested a young couple today.
Kind of a scene that we didn't really need. This movie works fine without it, but we got it. Back in the van, we learned that this group of friends are actually going to see the gravesite of Sally and Franklin's grandfather who has passed. They stop to get directions from like a group of old people who are just kind of hanging around the area of the cemetery, and Jim Leahy gets his moment to shine.
You know, you're wondering whether I'm still the liquor. No. Guess what? I'm on top of the liquor. I am the monkey in charge of bananas. What's my secret? This little device right here. I just take a little blow, and it tells me when it's time for a little top-up. Because when I first got this, I used to ride it around 0.20, which is fucking wasted, 24/7. But now, I leave it at 0.12, which is perfect. It's right in the fucking slot, just past the click. That wonderful moment, just like Julian. I'm sober enough to know what I'm doing, and I'm drunk enough to really enjoy doing it. Oh, look at that. 0.10. Time for a little drinky poo. Cheers, genitals.
We don't see them visit the gravesite, but we know that they did because afterwards they get back in the van so that way they can head to the grandfather's house. But on their way, they end up picking up a hitchhiker. And this hitchhiker is almost as creepy as anything else that you're going to see in this film. His whole personality is so unsettling. Have you ever been around someone and you just immediately felt like you were in danger? That's this motherfucker.
Jeez. They take the head and they boil it, except for the tongue. And they scrape all the flesh away from the bone. They use everything. They don't throw nothing away. They use the jowls and the muscles and the eyes and the ligaments and everything.
And as soon as he's in the van, he just starts on his weird shit. He takes Franklin's knife out of his hand and commits a blood pact to this group of teens. And when they don't like that, he takes a picture of Franklin and then sets it on fire. And when they still didn't like it, he takes out his own knife and cuts Franklin right on the arm. So I don't know, Franklin has like Lyme disease or something now. The gang decides that this guy parties way too fucking hard, and they kick him out of the van.
Get out right now, it's the end of you and me.
Which I know I sound stupid saying it, but for some reason I feel bad for him. I feel like in his own weird, fucked up, like hitchhiker way, he was trying to be nice and trying to make friends. But they don't make friends like that. Vanilla motherfuckers. The gang stops at a gas station that has no gas, and Franklin takes out his knife and starts like carving into the interior of the van itself. Why?
Yeah, I just started doing that.
That's not a fucking reason, you asshole. I can't believe this fucking guy. They finally make it to Sally and Franklin's grandfather's house, and immediately they start pairing off, because soon the son and each other are about to go down. It's a sexual innuendo. All except for Franklin, that is, who can barely maneuver around the house. Remember, homie is in a wheelchair. The worst thing to be in when you're in the middle of a horror movie. And this house is fucked. Like, how long has Grandpa been dead that this house has gone to such bad shit? It's weird that they all kind of have a devil-may-care attitude about even staying in the house. At some point, Kurt looks into a room and looks in a corner, and it's just a fucking daddy long leg fiesta going on. Hard pass, bro. We get a shot of Franklin, who is salty as fuck.
Come on, Franklin. It's gonna be a fun trip.
And Kurt and Pam decide that they're gonna split so that way they can fuck in a pool. I guess their logic is that because the house wasn't upkept at all the focus went on the pool. Wishful thinking, but I'm not gonna be the one to shit in your Christmas salad. As they dip out, we see Franklin, and he looks to the side and notices a pillow on the ground with what looks like human bones and feathers. But that shit looks fucked up. Meanwhile, on their way to the pool, Pam and Kurt come across a house and notice that they have gas. So they decide that they're gonna run up in that motherfucker and take a gallon or two.
I'm not safe! I'm not safe! I'm grown! Stop being obsessed, you're making a radio.
They knock on the door and nobody answers. However, breaking and entering is fucking cool. So Kirk lets himself in like he owns the goddamn place. But Leatherface comes out of his room and shuts that shit down on sight. I'm cracking jokes and making light of this situation, but actually this is a kind of fucked up scene to watch. Kurt is kind of like a really cool guy, and when you see Leatherface smack him in the head with that mallet, and you see him convulsing on the floor, it's very realistic and very fucked up feeling. As birds of a feather are wont to do, Pam calls out for Kirk and he doesn't respond, so she decides, he went in that house, I'm gonna go in that house too. And she starts approaching that house in her cute little red booty shorts that have now become absolutely synonymous with horror cinema itself.
Her?
And as she's exploring the house, she comes across the bone room. Both literally and figuratively. There are bones everywhere in this room. And I actually think that this is where Leatherface sleeps. Get it? Bone room? But after fully absorbing the decor, Pam decides this ain't my type of hype and goes to run away. But Leatherface isn't about that shit. He takes her body and hangs her on a hook and then shows her what his chainsaw can do on Kirk's body. You know, like a cool host.
Check it out, man. Anything you guys want, we got. Anything you want to do it. You know what I'm saying? Anything. You got any cigarettes? Regular or menthol?
Back at Granddaddy's place, Jerry and Pam are listening to Franklin just bitch and moan about his missing pocket knife. And Jerry decides, I'm fucking bored and I'm out of this bitch. So he splits to try and find Pam and Kirk. Jerry finds the same house and much like his homies decides that he's gonna let himself in. But again, like his homies, ends up meeting the same fate. And though this is a quick scene, it's a scene that has always stood with me. Cause check out the look on Jerry's face. That is, I just shit my pants fear. It makes me wonder if they actually didn't allow the actors to know what Leatherface looked like in order to get a more genuine reaction on screen. Because that's that deep fear on his face. Night falls and Franklin and Sally, the brother and sister, the only two people who can't fuck, are left waiting by the van for their friends. Sally decides that she's gonna go look for her friends, but Franklin's like, fuck that shit, I have the flashlight, you're taking me with you. So in the dead of night, they go off into the woods. And this scene fucking sucks. For 10 years, I've worked with people with mental and physical disabilities. And let me tell you something. Pushing a manual wheelchair on grass and twigs and fucked up terrain like that is not easy to do. So you're just watching Sally struggle through the woods and it fucking sucks.
Hey, Jay!
I feel for you, Sally. Naturally, they come across the house, but before they can get too close, Leatherface pops out of nowhere, and he sticks his chainsaw right in Franklin's gut.
Stop!
Meanwhile, Sally just stands there like a fucking idiot, doing things with her arms, before it finally occurs to her that she can fucking run away. But making a terrible decision, she runs into the house. But that doesn't take for too long. Leatherface chases her and she suicide jumps out of a window. And she's able to run away straight to the same gas station from earlier in the film that had no gas. The owner is still around and he tries to console her as she is screaming in his face for him to call the police. But he's like, dumb bitch, we don't have a phone. The fuck you think this is? He tells her to stay put while he goes to get the truck. But instead, he comes back with a duffel bag. And Sally's a little bit paranoid, so you with a duffel bag and I don't know you, fuck you, I'ma grab a knife. But the owner grabs a broom and just starts whacking her. Whack, whack, whack.
Nobody's gonna hurt you.
I fucking love the sound that the broom makes as it's hitting her. I just find that so comical for some reason. He gets her in the car and in the duffel bag, and as they're driving up the road back to the house to meet up with Leatherface, they run into that hitchhiker, and it is revealed that this is actually a family affair. Everybody is in cahoots. All except for Sally, of course, who is just fucked. And this is the start of me beginning to feel really bad for Leatherface. Because up until this point in the film, he just seems like a relentless murderer. But once he meets up with his family, it seems like he's more of a lackey, kind of just doing what they're telling him to do because that's what the fuck they do.
Where are the kids? Where are they? Show me!
Let them get away.
Are you sure?
Leatherface strikes me as like a misunderstood monster, like Frankenstein. But he's playing the hand that he's dealt like a team player, and that makes him cool. The hitchhiker ties Sally to a chair while she is just gagged and living her worst life. And the boys go upstairs to get their grandfather, who for years I thought was just a dead guy. But no, he is very much so alive. He's just an extremely old patriarch of this family. And they are sucking this guy's dick hard, y'all. They're like, he's the best murderer in the world. No one can do it like him. They wheel him over so that way he can take a mallet to Sally's head and fucking end this whole thing. But this dead as fuck asshole can't even hold the mallet.
Come on, Grandpa. Hit her!
Best killer in the world, my ass. Past his prime doesn't even begin to scratch the surface. I would wreck this fucking dude. Like, irreversible damage if it was me and this guy. Like, I wouldn't even break a fucking sweat. It'd be like decking a baby in his crib while he's sleeping. Sally is able to get away and suicide jumps out of another window where she runs down a road, or hobbles down a road. She's been through a lot of shit. And hitchhiker brother and Leatherface are hot on the trail. But much to Sally's surprise, an 18-wheeler shows up and runs over hitchhiker brother, saving Sally in the process and leaving Leatherface in the middle of the road to dance with his chainsaw like a beautiful ballerina. Guys, what do you want from me when it comes to Texas Chainsaw Massacre? This is such a well-crafted film from beginning to end. I can't think of a single time in this movie that I am not fully invested, fully entertained, and on the edge of my seat, no matter how many times I've watched it. There's not enough good things I can say about this film. The look of it is awesome, the story is great, the monster is sick, the kills are fantastic. This movie is aces all across the board. There's not even anything negative that I can think to say about this film. It was just a flawless project from beginning to end. Anything negative that I would say is things that we don't need. Like, yeah, there's no titties in this movie. I didn't need it. And for all these reasons, that's why I'm gonna give Texas Chainsaw Massacre a 10. I highly recommend this movie. And I highly recommend the sequels as well. But maybe I'm bugging. Are there things about Texas Chainsaw Massacre that you didn't like? If so, make sure that you let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you're not already, make sure that you subscribe and ring the bell so that way you know when my next video will be up. And if you have any movies that you want me to watch and review for you, make sure that you leave that in a comment for me down below. Thanks so much for staying till the end of my video. I will see you guys on the next one. Peace, video creeps.